Hello and welcome to part 3 of our Microsoft Certified Azure Developer Associate Ultimate course. Friends, we are starting with question number 27 in this part of our series. You have an Azure Cosmos DB for NoSQL API account named account 1. Multiple instances of an on-premise application named app1 read data from account 1. You plan to implement integrated cache for connections from the instances of app to account 1. You need to set the connection mode and maximum consistency level of app 1. Which values should you use for the configuration settings? The first part of the question is talking about connectivity mode. Friends, the options are direct mode, gateway mode using standard gateway, gateway mode using dedicated gateway. Now, folks, we want to use integrated cache which only works with dedicated gateway. The SDK must be configured to use gateway mode to take advantage of the integrated cache, and the integrated cache has two parts, which is an item cache for point reads and a query cache for queries. Now, the next part of the question is talking about consistency level. Your options are strong, session, eventual. Now, integrated cache supports session, consistent, prefix, and eventual consistency. Since we want to balance consistency and performance for multiple instances of app1, session consistency is recommended. Folks, there is a link on your screen. Go through the link to understand more about how integrated cache consistency works and how you can configure it. Let's look at next question. You are developing an Azure hosted e-commerce web application. The application will use Azure Cosmos DB to store sales orders. You are using the latest SDK to manage the sales orders in the database. You create a new Azure Cosmos DB interface. You include a valid endpoint and valid authorization key to an app settings.json file in the code project. You are evaluating the following application code. Now there is the application code in front of you and the line numbers are included for reference only. Go through the application code and then based on that, you need to tell whether the statements being talked about in the question are correct or incorrect. Friends, the first statement is a database named sales orders is created. The database will include two containers. This is a correct statement. We are creating a database named sales orders at line 22, and then line 23 and 24 refer to creating containers named container 1 and container 2 in the database. Now the second statement is container 1 will contain two items. This is also a correct statement. Line 26 and 28 confirm two items named sales order 1 and sales order 2 being inserted in container 1. Now the third statement is container 2 will contain one item. And friends, the third and final statement is also correct. Line 30 confirms sales order 3 is the only item in container 2. Now friends, if you still have any doubts on why I have chosen a particular statement as correct, then make sure to post them in the comment section and I'll try to address them as soon as possible. Let's look at question number 29. You are implementing an application by using Azure Event Grid to push near real-time information to customers. You have the following requirements. You must send events to thousands of customers that include hundreds of various event types. The events must be filtered by event type before processing. Authentication and authorization must be handled by using Microsoft Entra ID. The events must be published to a single endpoint. You need to implement Azure Event Grid. The solution you choose is publish events to an event domain, create a custom topic for each customer. Does this solution meet the goal? You need to tell whether this is right or wrong. And friends, this is a correct solution. Event domains allow you to manage a large number of related event topics, typically in a multi-tenant application. And you can authenticate, publish requests to an event domain using Microsoft Entra ID. Next question. A company is developing a solution that allows smart refrigerators to send temperature information to a central location. The solution must receive and store messages until they can be processed. You create an Azure Service Bus instance by providing a name, pricing tier, subscription, resource group, and location. You need to complete the configuration. Which Azure CLI or PowerShell command should you run? Your options are in front of your screen. Basically, they are 4 different commands. Now, friends, you will need to use the command in option A to create a queue in an existing service bus namespace, which is what we need here. The queue will store incoming messages from the smart refrigerators. Now, option B uses a grm command, which is already deprecated. Option C creates a namespace which already exists as per question statement. And option D creates a resource group which is irrelevant here. Question number 31. You have a standard tier instance of Azure Cache for Redis named Redis 1, configured with the default settings. You need to configure a max memory policy to increase the amount of cache available for read operations. How should you configure the max memory policy? Your options are decrease the value of max memory reserved, increase the value of max memory reserved, set the max memory policy to no eviction, set the max memory policy to volatile LRU. Now, folks, the question specifically talks about configuring the max memory policy, and you should set it to volatile LRU. The max memory policy in Azure Cache for Redis controls how keys are evicted when the Redis cache reaches its memory limit. Volatile LRU evicts the least recently used keys that have an expiration set, meaning this policy preserves frequently accessed keys, improving cache effectiveness for read-heavy operations. Now, friends, decreasing max memory reserved will help marginally, but not as effective as setting the max memory policy to volatile LRU. Increasing max memory reserved is counterproductive as it will reduce the cache space, and no eviction will force Redis to start returning errors when memory is full. Question number 32. You have an Azure App Service web app named Web App 1 and an Azure Functions app named Functions 1. Web App 1 is associated with an Application Insights instance named App Insights 1. You configure a web test and a corresponding alert for Web App 1 in App Insights 1. Each alert triggers a delivery of email to your mailbox. You need to ensure that each alert also triggers execution of function 1. The solution you choose is configure an application insights smart detection. Does this meet the goal? You need to tell whether this is right or wrong. Folks, this is an incorrect solution. Smart detection in application insights automatically detects issues like performance degradations and failure anomalies. However, it does not provide a way to trigger an Azure function directly when an alert is raised. You should configure an action group in the alert rule that includes a webhook or Azure Functions action. Let's look at next question of the series. You manage an Azure subscription that contains 100 Azure App Service web apps. Each web app is associated with an individual application insights instance. You plan to remove classic availability tests from an application insights instance that have this functionality configured. You have the following PowerShell command. The command you are using is get az application insights web test, and then with a where object, a condition is defined. You need to set the value of the condition variable. Which value should you use? Now in front of you, there are basically 4 options. Now friends, web test kind is the correct property that identifies the type of availability test. Ping refers to classic availability tests which are being deprecated, and standard refers to the newer availability tests based on standard tests. Folks, there is a link on your screen. Go through it to understand more about the PowerShell command get az applications insight web test. Let's look at question number 34 of the series. You have an Azure API management standard tier instance named APIM1 that uses a managed gateway. You plan to use API-M1 to publish an API named API-1 that uses a backend database that supports only a limited volume of requests per minute. You also need a policy for API-1 that will minimize the possibility that the number of requests to the backend database from an individual IP address you specify exceeds the supported limit. You need to identify a policy for API-1 that will meet the requirements. Which policy should you use? Your options are IP filter, quota by key, rate limit by key, and rate limit. Now, folks, the goal here is to minimize the possibility that the number of requests to the backend database from an individual IP address exceed the supported limit. So you will use rate limit by key policy. This policy limits the call rate based on a key such as caller IP, subscription key, user ID, etc. Now, rate limit limits calls globally, not per key, which is the key requirement here. IP filter allows or denies requests from specific IPs, and quota by key is for longer term quotas. Question number 35 of the series. You are developing several microservices to run on Azure Container Apps. You need to monitor and diagnose the microservices. Which features should you use? The first part of the question is talking about view console logs from a container in near real time. Your options are log streaming, container console, Azure monitor metrics, Azure monitor log analytics. And friends, you should use log streaming in this case. Log streaming allows you to view container standard output or standard error logs in near real time and is useful for debugging and tracking live activity in your container apps. Now, friends, the next part of the question is talking about feature to use for debugging the microservice form inside the container. And the options are container console, Azure monitor metrics, Azure container registry, Azure monitor log analytics. You will have to use container console in this case. It gives you interactive shell access into a running container, letting you explore logs, run commands, and debug directly inside the container instance. Now, friends, Azure Monitor Metrics provides performance metrics. Azure Monitor Log Analytics is useful for querying logs after aggregation, and Azure Container Registry hosts container images. Next question. You are building an application to track cell towers that are available to phones in near real time. A phone will send information to the application by using the Azure Web Pub Sub service. The data will be processed by using an Azure Functions app. Traffic will be transmitted by using a content delivery network. The Azure function must be protected against misconfigured or unauthorized invocations. You need to ensure that the CDN allows for the Azure function protection, which HTTP header should be on the allowed list. Your options are authorization, webhook request callback, resource, webhook request origin. Friends, when protecting Azure functions acting as a HTTP webhooks, Microsoft recommends validating the origin of requests using the webhook request origin header. This header helps identify and allow only approved origins, and it is especially important when integrating with CDNs or external services, ensuring that only known sources can call your function. Folks, if you're liking the content, do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe the channel. Let's look at question number 37 of the series. You have a web app named App1 hosted on your on-premise web server. You plan to use the application Insights JavaScript SDK to implement client-side real user monitoring of individual pages of App1. You need to author the script element that will be added to each of the pages. What should you set for the value of source and config keys in the script element of each page? Now, friends, the first part of the question is talking about source. And your options are URL to download the SDK from, application insights connection string, app ID used to correlate AJAX dependencies on the client side with the server side requests. And friends, source would be the URL to download the SDK from. This is the official CDN URL from which the application insights SDK script is downloaded. Now, the next part of the question is talking about config. And you have the options as URL to download the SDK from, application insights connection string, and the third one, which is different, is cross origin attribute designating support for cross origin resource sharing. Config would be application insights connection string. This is required to route telemetry data to the correct application insights resource. Let's look at question number 38 of the series. You plan to implement an Azure Functions app. The Azure Functions app has the following requirements. Must be triggered by a message placed in an Azure storage queue. Must use the queue name set by an app setting named input queue. Must create an Azure blob storage named the same as the content of the message. You need to identify how to reference the queue and blob name in the function.json file of the Azure Functions app. How should you reference the names? The first part of the question is talking about queue name. And then you have three options which are the variations of the input queue. Now, folks, in Azure Functions, app settings can be referenced in functions.json using app setting name inside the percentage marks. So if the app setting is named as input underscore queue, the queue name should be percentage input underscore queue percentage. Now, the second part of the question is talking about the blob name. And the three options are now on your screen. The message from the Azure storage queue trigger is automatically bound to a variable called queue trigger. You can use queue trigger within curly braces to dynamically name the blob based on the content of the queue message. All the remaining options are invalid syntax. So friends, that's all for this part of our Microsoft certified Azure Developer Associate Ultimate course. Make sure to explore the previous parts of the series yet. If you have not explored them, then link to the playlist is available in the description section of the video. I'll see you soon in further parts of our Microsoft certified Azure Developer Associate Ultimate course.